What's going on, good people? Adrian Homeboy Holmes here to welcome you to the new season of Super Gamer Book Club. New season? Where's the old season, I hear you say? Well, you can find all the episodes of the old season from our original book club host Zetch on our Patreon. And you can also find the newest episodes of season 2 with host me, ding, on Patreon as well. Me, Garrett, and a special guest every month choose a game and we go over it and talk about it in a shorter, more informal kind of setting. It's almost like we're just hanging out and telling what we liked about the game, what we didn't like about the game, so on and so forth. So we decided this is too cool to sit behind Patreon for all of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the older episodes and put them out on this free podcast feed for you guys. And if you want to check out the new episodes of stuff that we're doing, you can go and subscribe to our Patreon for only $1 and you get the brand new book club episodes when they come out. That's all I got for right now. I hope you enjoy the episode and I hope you come to see what we have on Patreon. Take it easy and enjoy the show. Good evening, good people. Welcome back. Here we are. It's not part 2. It's episode 2, chapter 2, book 2, whatever you want to call it. Super Gamer Book Club is back.
Yes.
This month, our game of the month is the one, the only, Studio Koba's first major outing, Narita Boy. And with us tonight, our guest of honor is the other half of Normcore Gaming, Mr. Eddie Norm Martin himself. Thank you for being here, good sir. We appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you. How you doing this evening?
Me. Doing good. You said other half. You should have said lesser half, but that we'll go with other half for now. That sounds nice. I appreciate it. Doing great though.
I mean, the other half is better than what I think I slipped on an episode one time and called you the better half. I'm like, Steph, I didn't mean that. Yeah, I really didn't, but it just like came out. I'm like, no, I didn't mean that. Take it back. He's just, he's another half of it. Steph, don't take it personally. We're all good.
It's because I paid you, Garrett. I paid you $5. I slipped you $5, and that's the one time I did it. And it won't be the last.
That's the actual truth. But I didn't know if you wanted that revealed on the show. But here it is.
And
reveals.
The other voice that you hear, of course, is your normal Super Gamer Boys host, captain, and dad, Mr. Garrett Morlang. Thank you for being here with me as well, sir.
Just a normal host. That's all. It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Just a normal dad. Just a normal dad.
just a whatever.
Oh man,
Yeah,
no man, I'm stoked to talk about this one. This one I've been waiting on for a little bit. It finally came out, and it came out to, I would say, majority of not overwhelmingly, but a really good number of positive reviews, especially for their first outing. Just a little background on the game. Narita Boy was developed by Spanish studio Koba. Came out, I know it came out this year. I think it was like March 30th of this year. Let's see here. Published by Team 17. You may know them. They've been around for a hot minute. I think their biggest, most recent thing was Overcooked that they published.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Rage inducing.
I love it. I'm so bad at it. It's so much fun then.
Yeah. So if you're curious of what Narita Boy is all about, maybe you didn't get a chance to play, so I'll just read you the rundown right here. It says Narita Boy is a 2D platformer with Metroidvania elements. As the player explores the digital kingdom settings, they use their abilities to travel across levels, and they must find techno keys and battle with a techno sword in order to save the digital kingdom from the stallion threat. So in the game, you are Narita Boy, which is basically the chosen one, and you're destined to save the digital kingdom from what is essentially a virus. But is it only a virus, or is it something more? We'll have to get into it in a little bit. Fellas, let's just do a little surface level. Eddie, you the guest. You go first. What you think overall?
Like, are we talking like what would I rate it out of 10 type deal? Or
you don't have to rate it out of 10. You
It's
could
hard
just
to
say,
rate it.
"Hey, I think it was great. I hated it. Whatever you feeling
It's
like."
hot garbage.
I
Yeah.
I definitely didn't hate the game. It's a beautiful game. Aesthetically, beautiful. Unlike anything I've ever seen. Music wise, soundtrack wise, fantastic.
Oh,
Chef's kiss.
Um, just beautiful. I have some clips playing on my other monitor right now. I'm just reliving it because you really get immersed in this world. The Digital Kingdom kind of came to life. Even the backgrounds when you fight bosses, they're unique,
Mm-hmm.
and you could tell they put a ton of detail in it. And there's something about indie games where the heart is there, and you can see that the heart is in this game. You know what I mean? There's actual like heart that the creators put into it. So I love that. I love that aspect of the game. Now the gameplay itself, some of the control felt a little slippery to me,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get more into that, I'm sure, as we talk more about this game. A little slippery. I hated that there was no map. The fact that there was no map was very brutal.
yeah.
There's a lot of backtracking,
Mm-hmm.
but all in all, like I enjoyed this game. I really loved playing it. It wasn't one of those where I was like, I can't put this game down. Not quite, but I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was fantastic.
Okay.
It's
Right
interesting
on.
that you have that problem with the whole backtracking when like you love like games like Super Metroid and what you did that like where you beat it in like under an hour or something like that. Like I don't know, you've done
That's
crazy stuff like
Not
that.
to
the
mention,
original
Garrett. I
Metroid.
don't know if you heard, but we have a new Symphony of the Night convert over
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Beautiful
So
game. Yeah, so you're right, Garrett. Metroidvanias are probably 2D platformers. Metroidvanias are probably my favorite style of game. It's funny that this game's considered. It has. I like that it says Metroidvania elements because I wouldn't consider this game a Metroidvania, but I
right.
would consider it exactly how Adrian described it. It's or whatever the website was. It's a 2D platformer with some elements of that. There's just a couple things that leave me a little like don't quite satiate everything to me, and that's okay because I still think it's a really good game and I highly
Mm-hmm.
recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, no, I'm definitely glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. I thought it was for like you were just saying the atmosphere, the world building
Mhm.
in this game
Yeah.
is easily the best part. I don't know. It feels like a D&D campaign almost as far as the
Okay.
world and the lore. You know, the way that they're setting it up. Like that's what I think of, like, because
Okay.
there's so much lore, there's like
Yeah.
all these different ancient tribes and all this stuff. You definitely feel like you're stepping into a world where things have already, like Star Wars, you're stepping into a
Right.
world where things have already been happening and they've been happening long before you got
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I think that's definitely the strong suit. We already said the soundtrack is a chef's kiss. I saved it
Mhm.
right after.
Yeah.
I agree that the gameplay I think is the one thing that doesn't match the level of everything else, and it's really unfortunate because I feel like had they nailed the gameplay, this definitely would have been up there with the likes of. I'll even say it. I think this could have been, shoulder to shoulder with a Hollow Knight type deal. Maybe not for its fluidity or like how fast Hollow Knight is, but I feel like if they were to just taken a little, it had a little. Not, I'm not gonna say taking a little more time, because
Right.
indie games aren't necessarily, they don't have the resources to always refine or tweak
Right.
stuff because they have a budget.
Mhm.
But if they
Yeah.
were given the time and the resources to dial that stuff in, I think that definitely would have taken it to the next level. But for
I
a
agree.
first studio outing, it's a fantastic effort. I'm stoked to see where they're gonna take this. Or
Yeah.
even if they don't come back to this for their next game, maybe they're like, hey, we'll take a break on Narita Boy, we'll do something different and come back to it later. I'm stoked to see what their next thing is.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm sitting at with it. What about you, Garrett?
I absolutely fell in love with this game first when you were streaming it. Actually, I watched a lot of it when you were streaming it, so I watched a lot first. I'm like, dude, like this game looks so crazy. This looks so amazing. Love the art style, everything about it just looked perfect. Picking it up and playing it, honestly, I still had that feeling for a long time. Like I most of the game, man, yeah, it's just like dripping with like this 80s over the top like
Mhm.
techno, kind of world aesthetic, and I loved it. I loved it. And like you were talking about with the lore dump, like how it feels like a D&D campaign or something like that. Yeah, I actually was really enjoying that aspect of it, where it's you come up and talk to someone, and it's a little daunting at first for sure. And I think even
Yeah.
someone in the Discord was making a comment about it was Toby, our Patreon producer there, Toby, and he was saying, he's like, man, it's hard, like just to like to get through it with adult ADHD or whatever. He's just like, it's so
Yeah.
hard to focus on this and like pay attention. It's even without ADHD,
It's a lot. It's a
still
lot.
hard. Like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I feel like to me, like that's both a positive because I love that type of thing, and also can be a negative because eventually too you get to a point in the game where you're just like, okay, like you're kind of reading that, but it's just like, let's get through this. So I love the aesthetic, I love the music, holy cow, the soundtrack. I love the enemy designs. Like I thought the enemy designs were kind of fun, like the different patterns.
Yeah.
Really it's just learning patterns, but it's like once you figure it out, it's whatever, but they all had different ones. It was kind of neat. But yeah, with like the too much, the over the top lore that everything they try to fit in this little 5-hour game, you know, and then yeah, like what everyone else has said with the combat and stuff. I really enjoyed it, but it was one of those things where like in reflecting back on it, I'm like, oh man, like it really was just the same thing the whole game. Like all the abilities they give you are just variations of the same thing. Like it's just another swing, but yeah, different. So
now you're taking them up
Sure.
instead of just knocking them back.
You're doing an uppercut. You're doing
down.
a down slam. You're doing it. Yeah. So yeah, my overarching thoughts are, I loved certain aspects of it, and then other aspects are just kind of like, bummer. Like, yeah, it's kind of in the middle there after finishing it up. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can dig that.
One thing that was interesting that you guys were talking to Adrian, what you said about the D&D campaign type deal. It's funny because when you play a D&D campaign, you kind of have a point of reference as far as like, this might go this way, but there's also this whole like part of your brain where you're like, this could be something I'm not expecting at all. And if you're playing with a good DM, they will hit that for you, where it's like, I thought it was going to go this way, then all of a sudden it went this way. Whereas this game, I had no point of reference for the Digital Kingdom. And that was what was so unique about it. It was so fresh and novel in the sense of, this hasn't really been done before. Like, you know, there's been stories like Tron and stuff like that, but this is different.
That's
like,
what I would akin it the most to. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, but we still had no point of reference for like, I don't know what to expect here. Like this is that was what was exciting about it. So that was one thing that was interesting when you said that, because I think when you play a good D&D campaign, like they usually hit that on the head. You expect something, but like you play a Zelda, you kind of know what to expect. Like you play it, but this was like something fresh and new, which is so rare to find in video games.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I definitely think that it's hard to, because everybody's done the you would expect like the 80s aesthetic, especially these days with all the people, how everybody is nostalgic for the 80s, and they're bringing back all the stuff, like, you know, the biggest example in the room of course is Stranger Things and all the shows and music that it's spawned just from itself. You would think that would be really played out by now, but somehow I'm right there with you. They found a way to make it fresh. It doesn't feel like anything. I mean, you can definitely tell like it's dripping 80s, but it doesn't feel, what's the word? It doesn't feel like patronizing, I guess.
Yeah.
It feels fresh. It feels fresh somehow.
Well, and I think how they did it is like, because it's not, it doesn't just take place in the 80s. Like they took like the VHS look, like they took like the stylization of some of the 80s stuff, and they kind of took like
a CRT.
They took like very like specific elements of that thing, but they didn't actually, it's not like just a story that takes place in the 80s, or it's not just a story that purposely like flashes up nostalgia beats and stuff like that. It's more like it's a world like this world could take place in any time period, but it just has like, you know, like I have a clip up right now of one of the bosses, Lord VHS. Like that's the type of thing that like that's where you get those flavorings. But it's not like he's a giant VHS tape. Like he looks like a big hulking monster. You could have named him anything. So I think that's how they got away with it. Is it has like the things that signal certain things in your brain. Like this is 80s. This is so cool. The synth wave, all this crazy stuff. But then the actual, I don't know, base foundation of this game is so fresh, so new, so original, and it really could have been skinned over anything. Like, it doesn't have to be an 80s aesthetic.
They could just that's a hallmark of very good world design and lore building. Speaking of, I want to take another step down and get into the story.
Yeah.
What did you guys think overall? That, because the memories for me they're pretty much my favorite part of the game, and the way that they tie into the rest of the story when you kind of figure out the overarching thing of what's going on, or at least how I interpreted it. I'll let you guys go ahead and go first, because I want to hear what you think and see if it lines up with what I'm thinking.
So I think one thing that's more of reflecting on this game, I think, I agree with you, Adrian. I think the memories are the strongest point of storytelling in this game, and the most emotionally tied in. It's almost like it's almost therapeutic in a way, which like, stick with me for a sec, because like when you go to therapy, like it's about like working through those like memories you have and what's made you who you are and how to become the best version of yourself. And it's like you're unraveling this creator's memories and like these impactful moments in his life leading up to like what, like everything is a reflection of the game, to the point there's like one memory where his mom is doing the claps in the bow and Narita boy does the claps in the bow, like everything's kind of connected in a weird way. And that's beautiful, and I think they nailed that. But on the other side, the lexicon, I'm not a coder. I don't know computers super well. I'm a layman. So when like reading through some of the text, like you guys were saying, when you just tap into A, and it's like, I don't like I was streaming the game and I was reading every bit of dialogue out loud, but that wasn't helping. Like it was almost like I was like reading it, but not really totally retaining what I was reading.
It's literally a different language. It's literally a different language. Yeah,
it was. But the memories, that was written like a beautiful novel. Like the memories are like it's talking about the weather, how it felt, like the smell of his grandma's wrinkles, like hands and all these things. Like there's like all these like it felt like I was reading a really well crafted novel. It was like something like that. Yeah.
It's the little shred of humanity inside the machine.
Exactly.
Kind of like the allegory for him as a person.
Which makes it even cooler, because if you think about it, that's, you got to get to the core of the memory to get that.
Right.
And that's why the other side of it, where it's like the psycho babble, or the tech babble, and the stuff I don't understand, that actually makes sense, because on the surface it's that, but deep down it's the memories. So that's actually really poetic.
Yeah, the memories I feel like were extremely well done. I think that they told a very satisfying overarching plot, or not plot, but just a storyline of how we got to where we are today. I was under the impression, and this is how I interpreted it, I don't know what you guys thought, but I guess not necessarily, I guess the main villain is more of a concept. I was likening it to almost like a mental illness in a way.
I can see that.
What's that?
I said I can see that. I wasn't super clear on him personally.
Right.
I thought it was just a virus.
Just because it feels like in the memories he always mentions like he's doing well in his life, right? And things are actually looking up, but him is always there. And he's always doing his best to control him and try to keep him at bay. But there's always that one point where, like, especially when he was in prison, and he was having a tough time. I think he like almost suffered a mental breakdown, and that's when him was at his strongest, which for me, I would akin that to, maybe the trauma of the events that had happened throughout his life. They present themselves in his mind, which is basically at this point just the digital kingdom at all times. Is that thing, it's that illness that he can't get rid of, that's invading the digital kingdom for him, for his digital kingdom that he lives inside of, not the one that's in the computer.
Right.
That he made a copy of, or I made as best a copy as he could on a computer of basically his mind. So I don't know, what did you guys take anything away, or did you interpret anything, or did you think it was pretty straightforward story wise? Or
I kind of toyed with that idea a little bit, like you said, like with the mental illness and stuff. Obviously for a lot of the game I'm just like, oh, it's just a bug in the system, because and originally I thought maybe a virus, but it's not even a virus because him was the leader of the red area, so he's put there intentionally. It's just
Mhm.
I would say it's even more of like a bug or a glitch where all of a sudden like boom, oh, this prop thing I placed there isn't working properly, which I mean almost kind of plays in more even to your thing with mental illness, where it's like we all have the same general working parts, but like some we all think differently though and work differently, and like sometimes
Mhm.
it's not quite working 100%, with with whether it's different certain illnesses that people deal with there. I mean just I mean honestly, in the last few weeks, me dealing with like some or last year really, I guess, like dealing with a lot of anxiety and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, that's something
Mhm.
like yeah, that's, oh, this was something that was working before and now this like something that's not. And it's a part that needs to be there and should be there, but it's doing its own thing kind of in my brain. And I'm sure, yeah, with more severe like mental illnesses and stuff, like, yeah, I totally could see that. One thing I actually had a question about the story, because I was like, when I first watched the memory, I was like, did I see that right? I should have just went back and watched the memory again. But so he straight up like makes a cult, right? Like based
Yeah.
around him. Okay, I want to make sure that
Yeah.
wasn't like not just like a metaphor or something, but like so that's why he ends up in prison, right? He kind of starts up this crazy cult, and okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. I was like, did I see that memory right? And for some reason, I just never went back and watched it again. But I wanted to
No, yeah,
clarify.
he
Yeah.
definitely started up a cult.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So like,
And it was all like red. It was like a red cult too, right?
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because him was like the driving force behind that cult
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
sense. It's interesting. I think we're onto something because go back to the whole therapy talk, right? You go to therapy to dive deep into your inner psyche to actually address those deeper concerns, those anxieties, those fears, whatever it may be. And there was something about the game, like towards the beginning, where it says like the creator has forgotten, like the creator
Mhm.
basically forgot who he was,
Mhm.
and then didn't have access to those memories. And like him was at his strongest when like the creator was forgetting who he was and like who he is. And it's almost
Mhm.
like when you're just doing, constantly doing and achieving and succeeding and doing all these things, but you're ignoring and neglecting the who you are, it's
Right.
going to lead to damage, mental breakdowns, him taking over, like off
Yeah.
balance. Like
Mhm.
even the colors, like the colors are perfect when they're all put in perfect balance, like the yellow, red, and blue. But when the red takes over, it's like everything's off balance, and now we got issues. So I think
Right.
you guys are all onto something with this. I think that's the deeper message of the game.
Yeah, that's kind of how I arrived at it, because if you look through the whole timeline of the memories, right? Like all the things that happened, his relationship with his dad
Yeah.
or his
Yeah.
grandfather, things like that, him having to
Mm-hmm.
move back and forth,
Yeah.
his relationship with his wife and his child, how strained that got.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, these are all things that, at least us looking in through what limited access we have through the memories, are things that we didn't see him deal with. So it would make sense that that would all add up and take a toll and become
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
in a
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Him, but
Maybe
not the real
that's
him.
not the real him, no, but
That's what's interesting. Yeah.
it's like all that put together kind of culminates into, maybe there's like a voice that he gives a person, not a person, a personality to, or a character to, and he calls it him because whatever that voice is, he keeps talking to me, it's him, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going with
Yeah,
that.
and
But
when he is cognizant and has all his memories and stuff, that's when it can be more clear in his mind, like, oh no, that's him, that's not me,
right,
And when he forgets those memories, well,
him takes over.
him is me.
Right.
It's not proper English,
But
but him is me. Yeah.
right. And what's fascinating is like the only thing that can bring him back to his memories is his kid, right? His son
Right.
Narita boy,
Yeah.
or his child Narita boy. I don't think so. It's kind of like that child, even with a strained relationship, gives him purpose.
Yeah. That there was a memory about that.
Yeah.
About how his relationship with his wife had gotten so strained that she would, she took him and left, or she took
Mm-hmm.
their son and left, and that was the thing that broke him. And
Right.
it broke, that his son leaving broke him more than the fact that his wife didn't really well, she still cared about him, but she didn't want to be with him while he was in that state. So
Yeah.
that was a really good allegory for the concept of Narita Boy himself, to be
Right.
like, yeah, you are the one thing that keeps him at bay for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow. That's like his center, his rock is
right
his kid.
is in essence
Yeah.
Narita Boy. That's
Right.
why everybody keeps calling him the chosen one. That's why they're saying you're the only one that can do this. You know.
Yeah, and that's really cool because I was thinking through that because the characters in the game themselves, like there's a meditating character that says like, well, we're just codes, we're lines, we're data. Like basically like they've all accepted their fate that they can't make a difference in the digital kingdom. They just exist because they're programmed to.
Right.
But only Narita Boy can actually wield the sword of the trichroma and bring balance or whatever, which is so fascinating.
Yeah. And even the symbolism, like even Narita Boy on his chest has that. I forget the name of the symbol, but doesn't it in Japanese like that symbol means like balance and like centeredness and like being So it's kind of neat.
I think it's
so cool.
Naka, isn't it Naka?
It might be Naka. That might be it. It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. So that part was, I mean, that overall theme, that's kind of what I took from it. I don't know if that's what they intended, but hey, games are art. Art's meant to be interpreted. But speaking of the events that happened, I think that they were all really well told. I definitely got a little choked up here and there at a couple of them.
It's just...
I think the ones with his grandparents, I think, got me the most. Just seeing how he was still in the midst of dealing with his parents while staying with his grandparents, and then the things started happening with them. I just it was a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like Eddie was saying before, with the way like the poetry that was put into writing those memories, along with like the music, like as soon as that music kicked in, it's just like, man, it like grabs your heart. It's like, man, this is such an emotional, whether it's those scenes with the grandparents or even later, just like seeing how broken this man is, like, damn, it was so
he's had a rough go.
Yeah,
definitely. I also didn't notice that there's a different song for every memory. Like it's all the same kind of overtones, but they're all different tracks. Like if you look at the soundtrack, which is shows you how much detail they put in. They really made a conscious effort to make the music match the feelings.
Yeah, and I love that they didn't shy away from maybe putting just a little bit of a lighthearted touch on there. Sometimes there's definitely some good comedic characters. Like the brothers, I think were really good. The one where you had to go and wake him up at the lighthouse, and his brother was so worried about him. Turns out he was asleep the whole time. I really dug when you first get the techno sword. You like bust that fat move, and then you just throw up. It's like
the band, when the band comes in towards the end of the game and the red zone.
The metal band.
You're fighting the bosses, like the metal band just starts jamming. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like that was really fun.
You're just fighting a boss in front of this metal band.
Even when you die, it's like rest in force. It's like that's a really cool death scene. Like it doesn't make you. When I died in Symphony of the Night, I was so frustrated because it'd show the grave. It'd be all slow. It'd be like game over. Now they have a party and they go out for a night or whatever. I'm like, God, just let me get back into the game. It's like this game's like rest in force, and you're immediately thrown back in. Like thank you, just let me get back in. I'm going to play it more. It's funny to bag on Symphony of the Night. It's like it's like almost 30 years old at this point.
It walks so Hollow Knight could run, man. I'm gonna keep saying that.
Yes, you're awesome. Right. You're 100% right, Adrian.
Oh
man. I wish I had this. This is where I would put a little bit of trivia. I guess the only trivia I would have is that the game actually started as a Kickstarter. When you beat the game, you're gonna have but like a good section where you see a ton of backers. And it's been on Kickstarter it had been on Kickstarter for a long time before they finally closed it out. I mean, it was definitely well funded. It ended up being able to be released on pretty much every console, PC, even Mac. So there was definitely an interest for it. Like I was saying earlier, it released to not overwhelmingly, but very good critical reviews. It's at least sitting at about 74-75. So this is a very good first outing for them.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of people, for some reason, a lot of people aren't talking about it. I don't know if you guys see anything about it.
There is nothing on the internet. When you go on YouTube and type in Narita Boy, it either shows trailers or full gameplay videos, but no like videos just talking about like discussing the story. There's no articles talking about it other than reviews. Like it's radio silent on the internet about this game. I was trying so hard to find like I beat it just the other day. I'm like, I want to watch a recap real quick of the story. Nowhere. Nowhere.
There's not even like a wiki. There's like not a fan wiki or anything.
Nothing.
Like it's like
nothing. It's
that could
so
be us,
odd to
guys.
me.
It could be us. We could do it.
I mean, yeah, we could write our own wiki guide. But yeah, I thought it was odd that there's so little word of mouth, considering how much
Game
of a
Pass,
strong
like,
effort. Right, and that's the thing too. How much of a strong first effort it is for this studio.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there's a lot of games available for people to play.
Fair
point. This is one of those deep cuts, and I think it seems like one of those like if like an influencer like sung its praises, then like a ton of people would play it, and I'm sure like just give it time, like people will find this like hidden gem and be like, wow, this game's legit.
That's where I'm kind of thinking is somebody's gonna have to run across it, at some point, because it's always gonna be here, but. I think you're right on the money. I think some big wig somewhere with like
a Jacksepticeye on the game or something.
Yeah, like somebody with a few million subscribers
all
to
it
him.
would
You
take,
have to be like, yo, this game is dope. Check it out, and then it'll finally get the recognition it deserves. I think that's where it's sitting at. I think we talked a little bit about the aesthetics before we kind of touched on it. I think they did a great job at differentiating each area from one another. As what?
I'm sorry. I don't want to. I know you're moving into another section, but just real quick.
Yeah.
The ending of the game. Is there going to be a sequel?
Yeah, of course. It's good. It might be a beat 'em up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like
that's
the way this ended, like it goes. I mean, we're obviously spoiling the game. You should have played it while you're listening to this if you haven't.
Toby,
like, it goes from the digital world to the real world. Him is in the real world. The world is gone to hell. And then all of a sudden, as they're getting into the car, this sweet, like DeLorean looking car, just like shows Narita Boy, like when he punches his fist and just goes, beat him up. And then he gets in the car and that's it.
Puts that,
yeah, he has the jacket, like a denim jacket or something. Like it's.
If they do a co-op beat 'em up, like a 2-player type deal, that would be so.
I'm
kick-ass.
there.
So cool.
Let's do it.
No, I definitely think that they're working on something.
That'd be so cool. But okay,
you can't end the first game like that and then just be like, well, this was our one. We're out of here. No, they got something cooking.
Okay,
and I'll be there for it.
I was just curious. The way that ended, I'm like, it feels like it has to be something. But all right, you can go back to your aesthetic talk.
No. I was just gonna say, I think that they did a really good job theming each of the worlds, and making them feel drastically different from one another. It definitely made the Digital Kingdom feel as grand in scale as they portray it in the lore. I guess we calling it a lore dump. Because they feel so distant. It feels like when you travel from one area to another. That's another thing I think they could have tightened up on is the travel sequences between different lands. I feel like they were a little bit clunky, at least for me. I don't know how you guys felt about them. I like the idea, and I think that the aesthetic of it was executed well, but the gameplay, I feel like I think there was one where you were riding the steed and you had to jump over stuff as it was coming up, and it was like lightning fast.
That one was my favorite one, only because of the music. I love how it immediately goes to like Western cowboy, like with the swelling orchestra, and I'm like, yes, I love this. But 100%, it's also the worst part of the game because
it's like impossible.
In order to get health,
it was hard.
In order to get health, you had to use the turbo to destroy enemies. But when you did that, your character moved to the right side of the screen, and if you so you can't see what's coming and you're running into obstacles immediately and then you lose all the health you gain. It's like, what is this garbage? Like it was horrible gameplay wise, but for me, I was like, yeah, right. I'm cowboy. Like all of a sudden this, cowboy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're right there with me.
Oh man.
Yeah, I liked the surfing part with on the floppy disk. That was a lot of fun.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about the upgrades that you get? The steed, the surfboard, the giant mech. Megazord.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the giant Megazord thingy. Yeah, the transformer that you just go ham on everyone for a little bit. You know,
was there one in the red area? Because it pretty much yellow was the steed, blue was the surfboard. Did red have mechanic?
Red had that not the giant one, but that
smaller
mech suit.
The mech suit.
Smaller
That's
mech.
right. Can we also aesthetically, the fact that red, blue, and yellow are basically the only colors in this game? Like,
pretty much.
There's like no green. There's no like orange. I mean, it's all just those colors. Somehow they were able to make that work. And I do feel like the three worlds, red, blue, and yellow, is a perfect amount. Like they didn't need to have any more than that. You didn't need to have more worlds, or like I felt like the game from a gameplay standpoint was the right amount of length.
Yeah. Nobody, no area, no level outstayed its welcome, I don't think.
Agreed. The pacing on that standpoint was good.
For pacing, I was surprised though how quickly the last section in the main capital city goes, because I feel like the first three sections were pretty equal, and like, okay, this is good. Like just when you get tired of it, you got out. And the city section, I feel like I literally the other night when I was finishing up the game. I was like, okay, I just finished red. I'm gonna go to the capital city. It might be an hour or so. I feel like I beat it in I don't know, and maybe it was longer, but it felt like 20-30 minutes. I'm like, oh, that was super short. Like the ending section is just boom, you're done. I'm like, okay. Even fighting him, I beat him in 2, maybe 3 goes. I was like, oh, what the, that was so quick. What?
Man, I don't know what I was doing then, because he was giving me the business. He was kicking my head in. You beat him super quick. Eddie beat him super quick. I watched Eddie beat him on stream. He was knocking my block. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe because I kept trying to brute force it.
Yeah, I got lucky on the third. Yeah, it was 3 times. And on the third time, I was just I think I just really
all
just
about
got
the pattern,
lucky,
man.
Because I was close. I had 1 bar left for the last half of the fight. I'm like, please don't die. Please don't die.
You know what's funny is I forgot you could heal. I forgot you can get a bar back. If you hold down the button. So I figured, I remembered it way later. I left the game for a while, came back next week, played it. I was like, man, I wish I had more health. And I forgot that you had that feature where you could actually get health back.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been singing praises all day long. I know we had a couple of gripes. I know the gameplay was a big one. One of mine is, I don't know if you guys had as tough a time as I did. I feel like it was really difficult to find certain areas within levels.
Yeah.
Something, I was going back and forth in a room for maybe about 10-15 minutes, only to find out, oh, it's actually a staircase that I have to go up. But I couldn't see that it was a staircase because it's so well blended into the rest of the background.
Yeah.
And that happened to me multiple times.
Yeah. Or
doorways,
doorways that don't look like doorways. It just looks there'll be columns in the room, but in the background, not in the foreground. So it just looks it's just random geometric shapes. But then if you walk too fast, you don't see the notification pop up. Hey, press up to go in. But if you walk real slow and all of a sudden you see it, you're like, oh, that's not just a shadow or a column in the background. That's a doorway. That happened to me a lot. It's what is this design? As beautiful as it all looked, it was also, as far as a gameplay or a UX experience, I don't know what you'd call it, the user experience kind of, of the world itself, was very tricky at times, with that working. But
yeah, the foreground background stuff was kind of difficult. There was the thing that killed me was not seeing the ledges you can climb onto, because they were barely at the very top of the screen, and maybe I just missed them somehow. And I'm just going back and forth, where do I go? What do I do?
Right.
And then it's the same room, it's right in front of my face. I think Adrian even said that in the chat, it's right in front of your nose. To where it's it's just a little tiny spot at the top where you can
you're somehow supposed to be able to see it in a split second.
Yeah, and that didn't happen too often. There were times where it happened though, and there was also times where the directions weren't totally clear, where you'd have a objective bring the trichroma floppy disk to the garden of Baba, and it's like, I don't know what the hell that is. Like,
Right.
you know,
It's
I'm
like,
what
I
is
may
that?
have been there one time.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
if I had, I don't know, some way to track my progress, maybe in a
Yeah.
paper form. Maybe
Right.
where I can mark things down, locations where I've been and where I have not been yet.
And to be
If only
fair,
there was something like that existed.
And to be fair, the first Metroid game didn't come with a map. You had to make your own map. You had to get out a journal and draw your own map. So, you know,
Fair point.
I could have drawn my own map. I could have actually done that.
Yeah,
And
but
it probably would have been better.
when a world is just like when a world is designed on a grid, that's one thing, but Narita Boy
Sure.
is not a grid. Like, it's all over the place. It's like here. Rooms are all over the place. Like, at least that's what it felt like. Maybe, I'm sure if you charted it out, it's pretty grid-like. But man, they made it very confusing when you're just running around. You're like, I think like I'm like 1.5 stories up or something. You know, from where I was before. Or like, do I need to go through that portal? Or a different portal. That's the other thing. They have portals in the mix too. So how do you map all that out? With like,
That's
well, this
also
Because
true.
it might
one's
send
over
you all
here.
the way
Yeah.
back somewhere.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
That's fair.
So that was a very tricky part. And I was again, our Patreon producer Toby was playing. I was telling him, he was like, I'm so lost. I don't understand. Like, I've had this objective for like 30 minutes and I just don't know where to go. Don't know what to do. And I looked at the objective and I was like, I don't remember either. I think I just stumbled on it. I think I just stumbled on the solution when I did it. I have no idea. Like, I thought I was going to help him. Thought I was going to help him. I'm like, nah, I got nothing for you. Good luck. Yeah.
Get good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Navigation is definitely the one area that they need to improve on. Navigation and discoverability
Yeah.
would be my one big thing. But it's their
that's the
first
thing.
game.
Yeah.
It
fair.
makes sense. I feel like they're designing it and they're not taking into account that you guys already know where to go. You made the game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
yeah, it's kind of like that whole like intuitive learned lost type deal, like, which is what this is kind of like. You know, there are some people who are like really intuitive with certain things, and usually it's something that like you have history with. Like I think we're intuitive gamers. We've grown up with video games. We played games our whole lives. But when even we are like having trouble finding direction, I think that's where it's like, okay, we need to add a little bit more.
Right, we need to figure something out here.
Yeah. So that's
if
one
the
thing.
sweaty people can't figure it out, then we gotta
Exactly.
maybe we need to put a signpost somewhere.
My other gripe is the gameplay from a game feel standpoint. Just some of the jumps, it takes getting used to. Once you get used to it, you can get the hang of like, I need to jump this far out and
It's
land
very
here.
floaty.
It's a little floaty and it's a little slippery at times. And the dash function when you're in combat, like, it takes some mastering too, because there were a lot of times, even when I was playing it for a long time, where I press the dash button and I'm dashing into the attack. I'm like, no, dash away from the attack.
Right.
Narita Boy's going into the move. I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to compare it to Hollow Knight, which is what I always do, because Hollow Knight is like
It's your trademark.
perfect. I know it's perfect combat, and so like even eliminating that, there's just there's some things that feel a little stiff, a little tight, and a little floaty with combat itself.
Yeah, they just needed a little more time to dial it in. Maybe get a couple more playtesters who aren't too familiar with the project, get some feedback there. But you don't always have the time to do that, and you just got to take the hits when you take them.
And the damn bats. The bats. Oh my word.
Oh my god.
Bats. Okay, if any game puts bats in it, it's like from here on
always
out.
bad.
It's always bad. It's just automatically bad.
Ocarina of Time, the bats are the worst because the Z targeting never works right.
Never been a good bat in a game other than
who
the Batman
said
games, you know?
bats were a good idea?
I don't know. They were the worst. And they'd always like have the little icon to like warn you and be like, "Oh, the bat's coming! I know the bat's coming.
They're
I know
terrible.
it's coming.
They've been terrible since the 80s.
Yeah.
They were terrible in the Castlevania 1.
It's
Why
on
are they
brand for the
here?
game. It's on brand for the game, I guess, because it's going for the 80s look.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Bats.
All right, I'll let y'all have that one.
Even though I'm the one complaining about the bats.
Yeah.
I think we are. I think we've reached the tail end here. We've sung some praises. We've raised some concerns and some areas where they could do better. I definitely, on my closing case for why you should play Narita Boy, I feel like at least in my opinion, we've given a very convincing argument. It's some of the best world building that's been in a game this year. I feel like some of the best music in a game this year for sure.
Especially for an indie game, like the world
especially
building
for an independent game.
Blows my mind that they did this. Crazy.
Yeah,
it's on Game Pass. You have no excuse not to play it.
And then if it's not, it's not a AAA game. You're only maybe gonna pay $20-$25 at the most.
Yeah.
And for that price, it's definitely worth the price of admission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you played it on Switch, right, Adrian?
I played it on Xbox actually.
Oh, you did? Okay. I wonder how it is in handheld mode, because you played the Switch version.
I played Switch on handheld the whole time, and I never had a single issue. No hitching, no funky stuff. Everything played super smooth. Yeah, that's how I played it. I have it. I have Game Pass, so I was originally going to play it on PC because I have PC Game Pass, and I was like, no, I gotta. I want to be able to play this wherever I go, at any time, at any moment, laying in bed, whatever. And I'm happy I did. Nice. I spent the $20-$25 for this game. I'm like, that was worth it. Like, it was a beautiful game, fantastic, and played perfectly on the Switch.
There you go.
What a well-told story. Any closing thoughts, fellas?
How do we get into Garrett's memories? I want to find Garrett's psyche, and then maybe like we could do a Super Gamer Boys where you're going down the 12 memories of Garrett. You know,
I don't know.
You sure you want to go in there?
I don't think you don't know what you were asking for there.
Right.
You do not know what you're asking for there.
We already know that. We already know the story of how you would sneak down and watch Metal Gear or whatever.
Resident Evil 1.
That's what I was.
When I was 3 or 4 years old. That's why, and that's probably the root issue. That's what's messed up my entire life as a 3-year-old watching Resident Evil. You know,
that's what started Garrett's him right there.
Him takes over.
Garrett's him.
Garrett's him.
No. Play this game. That's my closing thought. Yeah, it has its issues, but it's gorgeous. The soundtrack's amazing, and the gameplay, at least for me, even though it was funky, floaty, whatever you want to say, samey, especially like we talked about combat. I talked about combat earlier, where it's just kind of like, yeah, it's a little repetitive. It's still so stinking fun. Like, I never once was bored. Like, I never once was like, I'm done for the night. Like, honestly, I had to stop myself. Like, okay, no, I got to put it down. It's late. I'm an old man now. But yeah, so just play this game. You do yourself a disservice by not playing this awesome indie game.
Couple things. I agree with everything Garrett said. Play it, give it a shot. It's not overly brutally punishing. When you die, you get to go right to where you were. So I feel like that needs to be said, because okay, let's go back to Hollow Knight. You die, you gotta go all the way back to where you saved last, and you gotta go trek all the way back.
That was one of the things that I couldn't stand about Hollow Knight. Is the save points punishing. And checkpoints are so far. Like, I would be playing from a checkpoint for maybe an hour or something, just exploring, and then I go into the wrong room, something would kill me, and I'm just like, well,
good night, folks.
I've had enough for today. I'll come back.
So this game doesn't do that to you. This game, when you are in a battle and you die, you get to go right back. It's like rest in force, and you're right back in. So I love that about that. Like,
get back in there.
Yeah, it just throws you back in. So that's a good thing.
Right on. Well, I think that wraps up everything that we can say about this great first outing from Studio Koba. You guys have done a fantastic job. If you ever see this, we appreciate your hard work, and we're looking to see what's coming up next. Gentlemen, thank you guys so much for joining me this evening to talk all things Narita Boy.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Eddie, thank you for being our second guest. I hope you had a good time. I hope you had a good time with the game, because that's the most important thing that we're here for. I mean, we're here to talk about it, of course, but hopefully it's something that we like.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Hey, like I said, my pleasure, and thank you for sharing the wonders of this game with me.
No problem. I'm just glad more people are talking about it, because clearly nobody knows it exists at this point.
Let's talk about it, man. Narita Boy's gonna be hot in the streets. Let's do it.
Hey, look, this is proof that we were there.
Yes,
we were there on the ground floor before Narita Boy pops off. In a
couple years,
way ahead of the game.
In a couple years, when it pops off, I'll just make this episode go live to the public and be like, "Hey, we've been here for a while. Like, come on, guys."
Right? We knew. We've been new. Yeah. I had the Naka shirt now. Come on, I wear it so much it's in the wash right now. Yeah. I'm just saying.
That's awesome.
Fair enough.
Yeah, man. So thank you guys, and thank everybody who is here listening. all our Patreon subscribers. I appreciate you. I appreciate you rocking with me. Just like I said last time, I hope you guys had a good time. If there's anything that I could do to improve the show, let me know. Let me know what you think in the Discord. I'm there. I'm always looking. I'm watching. I'm listening. Just send me your thoughts. Let me know, hey, good or bad, because I want to make the best product that I can for you. So, yeah, I think that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys very much, and I'll see you. Should we tell them what the next one is?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Oh, I don't even know what the next one is.
Why
Oh,
not?
you don't know what the next one is?
I mean,
Okay.
it's your show. It's your show. You do what you want to do. But I mean,
All right.
like,
Well,
hey, why
look,
not?
they're gonna know before everybody else, right? So let's they'll be cool about it until we tell people about it. But this is what you get.
Be cool.
This is what you get for being a cool kid Patreon subscriber. Here we go. So our next episode is gonna be about the legendary Hades.
Oh.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh.
And it's gonna be with Nate Fletcher himself as our next special guest.
You locked up Boba Fletch?
We locked up Boba Fletch himself. Yes, sir. Talking about the game of the year, Hades.
Yeah, that was Nate's game of the year last year. I was just about to say he rants and raves about it. So obviously he's gonna have good things to say about it. But I'm more scared if I'm gonna be able to beat it in a month.
I was getting ready to say, and Garrett is scared to death.
That's the real test here.
You're on a first name basis with Boba Fletch. You call him Nate?
I call him Nate.
Whoa!
And there's nothing he can do about it.
He even sent me. I have a cell phone number now, so if you want to, let me read it off here for everyone. Dude. No, just kidding.
just blast it out there for everyone.
No.
But yeah, stay tuned. As you can see, we got much more stuff on the way, and I got stuff way out past that you guys have no idea about yet. So that's where we're at. Once again, thank you guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Rest in force.
What we need is a hero to protect Motherboard, saving the world. Narita boy, save the world. Yellow, red, blue, always be true.